The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Hello, 15-Point Planners. We are here today for another episode. I'm Jacqueline Smith, and I'm here with my co-host, Ryan Greigg. And as always, we want to bring you conversations around our daily habits and how they contribute to our overall energy, happiness, and our capacity to manage stress and just to manage life, because we know that life is always happening, isn't it, Ryan?
Absolutely. Life does not stop, Jacqueline. Thank the universe. Life doesn't stop. And we want to give you a system that will simply have you with more energy and less stress. And we know that one of the foundations of making sure that we have the appropriate energy and keeping our stress level low is simply sleep. Right, Jacqueline?
Absolutely. Sleep is so important. And I remember a while back, we had an amazing guest on the show, Andrea Jones, and we asked her to pick, was it like the top 3 or 4, I think, habits that are part of the 15-Point Plan system? And sleep was one of them. So it was one of the pillars to good health, good energy, vitality, fulfillment. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is we're going to dive into sleep. And obviously, Ryan and I are not doctors. We are also not sleep experts, but we are humans, just like all of you. And sometimes we struggle with sleep, and other times we have a wonderful sleep. So we're going to talk about some of the habits that we've noticed have made a difference in our lives. And hopefully we will help some of you. And we want to hear from you too, as you listen to these. You know, if something speaks to you, or you've researched something, or can relate to anything, send us a message, because we want to hear from you. What has helped you master sleep?
That's right. And like Jacqueline said, we are not doctors, but Jacqueline, I have read a really phenomenal book by a doctor. His name is Matthew Walker, PhD, and it is called Why We Sleep. And I would encourage anybody to go pick that book up. And if you only read the first couple of pages, you will be reminded from a doctor how detrimental lack of sleep can be to your health. It is the foundation of our health. And I think it's so simple to overlook, because we just think, oh, I go to sleep, I get my hours, but are we getting restful sleep? Are we waking up with energy? And he really dives into sleep. He dives into dreams, which is a fascinating subject for me. And he talks about having sleep as a foundation of your health. So we're going to talk deeply about sleep today. And we're going to talk about some basics. And then we're going to also talk about some next level things that we can do to monitor our sleep through blood panel testing, through hormone testing. But first, Jacqueline, I got to check in with you, because our listeners know that you are taking action right now through your third 75 hard. And I think you're right about halfway through, aren't you?
Yes, that is true. I mean, if we want to talk about something that helps you sleep, do 2 workouts a day, because it's definitely not easy, and it helps you, I guess, be more tired at the end of the day. So you sleep better when you're actually exerting energy at a high level. So, I mean, I'm looking outside right now. By the time people are listening to this, hopefully we will be through it, but it is snowing. And, I got my indoor workout in this morning on my tonal. I'm a huge fan of the tonal, but I will be doing my outdoor workout later in the snow and in the cold. But we've been really spoiled this year, my husband and I, on this 75 hard journey. We've had some pretty nice weather. I mean, we haven't had those miserable, where the wind's blowing sideways, rain. So I'm thankful, but we are going strong, and we are excited to be halfway.
Yeah, halfway through it. And I just have so much admiration for you and Phil for doing that. It's not your first time either. It's your third time doing it. So I highly recommend to anybody that wants a really significant challenge in their life to go check that out, 75 hard. And like you said, if you're having trouble with sleep, I challenge you to try that. Do a 45-minute workout in the morning, do a 45-minute outdoor workout at night, and just see if that alone fixes your sleep problem.
Yeah, they say spending more time outdoors has a significant impact on our sleep, just on our circadian rhythms and all of that. So I think this time of year, especially because Ryan and I were in the Pacific Northwest, so we can easily tend to spend virtually like no time outdoors if we're not careful. And so I think making sure you're getting out there regardless of the weather and spend some time outside definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is an easy way to increase your sleep and probably your restful sleep. Because if you're like me and you do a good workout 45 minutes in the morning, and then you drink all your water for the day, and then you do another workout later in the day, I am crashing in my bed when it
Yeah.
comes time for bedtime. So that is maybe step number one to getting more sleep. Like you mentioned, Andrea had given us 3 ways to encourage our sleep. And I think it was simply hydration, or excuse me, 3 ways to improve our health: hydration, sleep, and movement.
Yep.
For her 3 recommendations. So we've talked about sleep in the past, and we know that it's an easy thing to overlook. And we've talked about ways that you can monitor that. There's a lot of different ways you can track your sleep, whether that's with something like an Oura Ring or your Fitbit or your Apple Watch. They even have beds that will monitor your deep sleep.
Yeah.
And what we really want to get into is what's called that REM sleep, right? Because that is where our body will reset. That's where we'll get the most recovery. And we want to get into that deep sleep. And if we're not getting that, our body is not waking up rested. And Jacqueline and I were talking about, well, how do we define getting good sleep? And for me, I know that I've gotten a good night's sleep when I wake up before my alarm goes off. My alarm goes off about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I know that when I get a good night's rest and I've done the things that I should, I've planned for the next day, I've hydrated that day, I've turned my screen off, an hour or 2 before I go to bed. Typically speaking, when I do that, I wake up and then my alarm goes off rather than waking up to my alarm. And so that's one way I can track, did I get good sleep? Did I get good rest?
And I know that there are people out there right now going, hold up, like I have never woken up before my alarm. And that sounds so impossible or far-fetched. And I think that's interesting because sometimes we don't even know what's possible and we get so used to living, with inferior sleep and feeling tired that it just becomes normal for us,
Right.
And meanwhile, there are these humans out there, these superhumans like Ryan, and they're waking up before their alarm. So really, I think this could be a case of like, you might not be getting great sleep and you just don't even know it because you've just always been like this for so long that you don't even know that it's actually possible to get such restful sleep that you do wake up before your alarm. And so I just find that interesting. That was my knee jerk thought when you were sharing, is like, I know that I used to be one of them that was like, oh my gosh, like snooze fest on the alarm. And
Yeah.
actually I'm currently going through that right now, but there's been periods and seasons where, yeah, I woke up at, before my alarm at 5 a.m. and was excited to get up and start my day. And, right now I'm in a season where I've been having a struggle getting up in the morning. And I've recently learned why through a hormone test. And so my hormones are not where they need to be. And that can really impact your sleep. And so what we don't want to do with this episode is to talk about good sleep and, things that we can take to help us sleep aids, melatonin, all those things. Those actually don't solve the root issue, right? They only help the symptom. And so if you are having a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, or getting, like Ryan's talking about, the type of sleep that allows you to wake up rested, then there might be a deeper issue going on. But before we go there, it might make sense to just make sure that you're doing the basic
Yeah.
things that we can throughout the day, like exercising, getting outside, limiting our screen time, like you mentioned, hydrating, having good food, not overdoing it on caffeine, things like that you can control easily throughout your day before you go down a rabbit trail of other things or sleep aids.
That's right. That's right. And I think that is such a great point, Jacqueline. And so many of our 15 points can address that idea of the words you mentioned, the root cause. We don't want to just mask these things. our society is so commonly found in, this hurts, so let me just take a pill.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not sleeping, so let me take a pill. I don't feel great, so let me take some caffeine. Well, why is it that we don't feel great? Why is it that we're not getting that sleep? So three basics that our business partner, Brendan Bouchard, recommends. He's got his 3-2-1 method. 3 hours before bed, don't eat any food. 2 hours before bed, stop working. And 1 hour before bed, no screens. And I know that when I do that, my sleep is much better. It's going to allow me to tone things down. It's going to allow me to unwind. If you're staring at a screen and you're thinking about work and then you go and close your eyes, well, guess what? Naturally, your body's going to take a while to try to fall asleep. You don't want to do that as you're closing your eyes and the lights are off. It's going to take you way too long to turn off. And then you're going to fall asleep with those thoughts in your head. And that's what's going to keep you up. That's what's going to make you wake up. You ate too much food too late. And I've done this. We've all done this. We eat some of those cookies before bed again, Jacqueline, and we wake up a couple hours later because that sugar is now just settling into our blood. So the basics, right? I mean, that 75 hard is a higher level of that, but making sure we're getting movement in, making sure we're getting outside, and making sure we're hydrated. Then following that 3-2-1 protocol, 3 hours before bed, no food, 2 hours before bed, no work, and 1 hour before bed, no screens. That's probably where we want to start if we're not getting this deep rest and we're waking up tired and we're waking up hitting that snooze button 20 times. So start with that. Step number 1, sleep basics 101. Then if you're doing all those things and you've done that for a little while and you've realized, you know what, I'm still not getting that deep sleep. I'm still not waking up feeling rested. Then we want to take it to the next level, like you've done, Jacqueline, with getting some blood work done, maybe getting a blood panel, and specifically, like you talked about, checking out our hormones, especially as we are getting a little bit older, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, I actually have a coach, and my coach suggested, let's get your blood panel, let's get your hormones checked. It wasn't necessarily that I was thinking I had any issues, like major issues anyways, that I was dealing with, like in terms of sleep and things like that. But as I'm working to be a better leader, wife, mom, friend, and to really, I want to experience life to the fullest. And so it's hard to do that. It's hard to feel happy and fulfilled and energized if your physical body has something going on with it that is not allowing you to perform at your best and to be at your best. And like I said earlier, we get used to feeling bad. Like Andrea, that's the gal that I did this test through, because I had actually done tests in the past through a doctor, and they said that they came back normal. And I know a lot of women have had that experience where they don't feel quite right. You might be like going through premenopause or whatever, nearing that stage of life. You go to the doctor, they do your tests, and it comes back normal. And then you just start feeling like, well, am I crazy? Because I don't feel normal.
Right.
But this is telling me I'm normal. So Andrea had a way more in-depth test that spanned over the course of a couple of days. And it came back, that my hormones are not where they need to be. So I have a natural protocol, some habits that I can adjust, like eating breakfast, for example, and which I don't normally do, and then taking some natural things to help support my body to create the right level of hormones that I need. And she did mention to me, how's your sleep? And my initial response was, my sleep's great. I fall asleep, no problem. I stay asleep, no problem. She said, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? And I said, you know what? Like, I've been really struggling to get up, and I never used to be like that. And, I've been snoozing sometimes for like an hour, and I can't seem to get out, of that. So, anyways, it's interesting to see, over the next 6 weeks following her protocols, if I will be able to go back to that place where I could get up without my alarm like you, Ryan. But if you are particularly a woman, like I'm 46, and you are having some of these symptoms like affecting your sleep, I would definitely recommend go back to that episode with Andrea Jones,
Yeah.
or you can go to abundantwellnesswithandrea.com and just reach out and see if you can get her tests done, and she'll go through and go through the results with you, because it was really eye-opening.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. And again, so we've got the basics, right? Sleep 101, looking at getting our movement, eating well, hydration, taking away the screens before bed. Try that for, I don't know, a month, maybe 2 months. See how that does your body. And that could very well be the key to getting good rest. And if not, then we can take it one step further, reach out to Andrea, reach out to Jacqueline, and find a way that we can get some of those testings done so that we can find maybe there's something deeper going on within our body, and we can adjust that as we need. The last thing I'm going to leave our listeners with, Jacqueline, is, there's this funny thing that everybody has heard of, that when you can't fall asleep, that you count sheep. You ever heard that, Jacqueline?
Yeah. I
Right?
think we've all heard that. Yes.
We've all heard that. And I don't know the root of where that came from, but my belief in that, and my last recommendation to get good sleep, the whole counting sheep idea is a direct correlation and direct relationship to simply following your breath. So my recommendation is, if you try these things, or even before you try these things, you can count sheep if you want, or you can simply use that count to count your breath. And one thing we've talked about, we had Louis talking about breath work in the past, right? Breath work is incredibly powerful. Maybe we'll do a follow-up episode on this, but there's a thing called box breathing. That's where you inhale for a count, you hold for a count, you exhale for a count, and you hold that for a count. 4 seconds is the average. Try that. Try that box breathing. If that's too much for you, simply try to count your breath for 4 inhales or 5, whatever your lungs will allow, and count your breath on the exhale. Do that 100 times. In other words, you're counting sheep, but you're monitoring your breath. What happens when you do that? You're simply so in tune with counting your breath and following that breath and trying to keep that rhythm, you stop thinking about everything else. And your body goes into a deep state of relaxation simply by using your breath. So that's the last tip I'll offer you, is count your sheep or do some just focused breathing before you go to bed, and your body will naturally calm down as well.
Love it. We hope this was helpful. Obviously, we could talk about sleep for hours and dive into it super deeply. There's so much that factors into good sleep, but we hope this gives you a good place to start. And thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on our next episode.
That's right. Until next time, everybody, you can get more information at winmakegive.com. Follow both Jacqueline and myself on Instagram, Jacqueline Ray Smith and Ryan Park Greigg. Until next time, thanks, everybody.